Hi, so today my focus will be a critical evaluation of a journal article. And the article I chose was Realizing Multilingualism, the Dutch Approach to Language Teaching by Lynn West. Basically, the background of this study was that Lynn West, she was a high school Latin teacher from California who wanted to see how foreign languages are taught in the Netherlands, which really resonated with me having just been to the Netherlands in February, just a few short weeks ago. And I was really intrigued, and it's like totally changed my perspective on multilingualism, having met so many people that were fluent in at least four languages, if not more so, all having grown up in Dutch schools. So her study, the research questions were what instructional approaches are used in Dutch schools? And then to what extent is there good language teaching in the foreign language classroom? So those were her research questions. And really her motivation in doing so was because she wanted to see how effective the programs were in the Netherlands and bring that back to the United States in her Latin class and ideally in other language classes as well. Now, her hypotheses, well, it's really just one, so her hypothesis was good language teaching is used in the Dutch schools that integrate as much immersion as possible, and therefore fluency is obtained in this environment. So, due to the nature of using the foreign languages and immersing the kids as much as possible, therefore, they're that much more likely to be fluent, and that's why the programs are so successful. Now, the participants were 49 classes and 27 teachers across the Netherlands to investigate instructional approaches. They were primarily in the northern part of the Netherlands. Now, within that, 316 students from 15 classes taught by 10 of those 27 teachers were surveyed in those classrooms to answer the following question. Their goal in the survey was, is there a correlation between good foreign language classes and the way students perceive those classes? And there's a reason why good is in quotation marks, because they then go on to define, well, what does it mean to be a good foreign language class? What does that mean? And part of that observation of the teachers was identifying those strategies. Now, participants they were selected by reaching out to as many teachers as possible. They were observed and recorded based on what happened in class. The observer noted which language teaching approaches were employed by the teacher, whether it be grammar translation, communicative approaches, etc., and the amount of target language that was used. And the last 5 to 10 minutes of class was when students were surveyed using a hard copy survey. And the approach to the analysis was using simple graphs to visualize the results, then analyzing teacher observation and student survey to see if there was a correlation. And they use this through SPSS, which I had to look up, and that's basically just a program that Windows offers to break down data analysis. So the key results and the author's interpretation, there was a significant positive correlation between student engagement and communicative activities, meaning the students were a lot more likely to be inclined to participate in class if it involved some type of communication, some type of speaking activity, and using the target language in this speaking. West's interpretation of this data suggests the students are a lot more likely to be strongly present when there were communication activities. So the more communication there was, the higher the student engagement was in class. And then West's interpretation of these findings also claims that the data suggests the more student-centered the learning is, the higher the student engagement was. Which honestly, as a teacher myself, I know I'm not a foreign language teacher, but as a teacher myself, I can't help but say, well, of course, this makes perfect sense. The more that we expect our students to participate, the more it's focused on what they're interested in, the more it's centered around their activities and project-based learning versus the teacher lecturing at the front, the more buy-in students have. And if anyone has any questions about that, please, please, please read Education Outrage. This book has totally changed my perspective on the teacher's role in the classroom and the purpose of education. But that's just an aside. Going back to this, 55% of the classes were conducted mainly in Dutch, which is the Netherlands' national language. And I was surprised by this just based on the quality of the students' understanding of these foreign languages. My friend Hendrik, one of the people that I met in the Netherlands, he's fluent in English, which is how we communicated, but he's also fluent in Dutch, obviously, as that's his native language, but then French, German, and Spanish on top of that, because those were the classes that he took in school. And just even having the option to do that, let alone the expectations within the classes of becoming fluent, it's just in his case anyway, it was totally due to immersion and using the language in class and then having the opportunity to use it outside of the classroom. So I was surprised that 55% of these classes were conducted mainly in Dutch. 45% of the classes were conducted in the target language. And that to me, I was surprised that number wasn't higher just based on my own observations when I was in the Netherlands a few weeks ago. And then the student survey analysis showed that there was a significant positive relationship between good teaching and the students' attitudes towards the class. Now, with good teaching, again, I said I'd kind of reiterate and delve deeper into what that means. Good teaching refers to the rubric evaluation of the observation of the teacher and then its connection to the students' responses on the questionnaire. So each of the teachers was almost like rated with this rubric, and that's what the rubric evaluation is referring to. And basically, it was just like the number of times that the teacher interacted with the kids, the number of times the kids were expected to do something specific, the amount of time spent in the target language, things of that nature. So all of that was in this complicated rating, and that was part of what the SPSS was discussing. So by good teaching, they kind of broke down, well, what are elements of a class that engages the students and forces them to participate. And then on top of that, the students' responses in the questionnaire and their attitude towards the class. So again, just now with clarifying that information, the student survey analysis showed that there is a significant positive relationship between good teaching and the students' attitudes, which again, that seems like a no-brainer, but that's still really important data to discover. So the critical evaluation of the research methods, the methods of gathering quantitative data, which was the observations of the teachers and then being scaled numerically in the SPSS software, and then the qualitative data, which are the responses of students to the questionnaire, they really supplement one another and complement one another, counterbalancing the measures and making the findings more valid and reliable, in my opinion. Observing a variety of teachers and students all over the world, not the world, the Netherlands versus just staying in one concentrated area, like one particular school or grouping of schools, increase the validity and reliability as well. However, an intervening variable could be how the students and the teacher acted, knowing that they were being watched. I know in my own personal experience, I don't always teach quite the same way when my administrator is observing me versus just the natural, fluid dynamic of the class when I'm not being watched. And I know for a fact that students can act really awkwardly and just totally not like themselves when they're being watched. So I think that would be an intervening variable. And similarly, experimental confounds are the behaviors of the students and teachers being watched. So just based on how they would act with an observer versus not having someone watching them. But there's really nothing you can do about that. And the limitations and confidence in the research, the limitations of the research lie in the fact that most of the schools visited were in the northeast of the Netherlands. So it's possible if they visited other areas of the Netherlands, they would have yielded different results. Furthermore, teachers were contacted from a connection with the university teacher education program that West was working through. So these teachers are probably more likely to be like higher, more qualified, better teachers than just any random group of teachers that could have been selected. However, regardless of the limitations, my confidence in the study is fairly high, just due to the authentic nature of observing, as well as gathering the qualitative data. And I think that West went about the study in a really authentic, genuine way. Based on the findings in West's work, I want to conduct a similar study with a similar structure. However, I would want to concentrate on a larger portion of the EU rather than just the northeastern part of the Netherlands. And I'd also like to apply this type of study in foreign language programs across the United States rather than just in New Hampshire where I live. And I think just a broader range in the EU and the US would ensure that the findings are authentic. So anyway, I'm getting a warning that this is almost over. Here's my reference for the article, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing this assignment. So thank you for asking us to do authentic work. That's all that I have for now. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to your feedback.